Nvidia is pulling some sneaky stuff with the RTX 5090D. Intel finally gets its billions from the US government, and this dude found the fastest and rarest graphics card in the trash. Let's get into the hot news, everybody. I'm your bright host. We're gonna be going over the hottest tech news that I can find on the internet while you enjoy your breakfast this Wednesday, November 27th, 2024. And I'm just gonna remind you yet again that we are still currently running the giveaway for this Thermaltake Tower 600 PC. It's got a 4080 Super 9950X. You can find out how to enter by heading over to our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/UFD Tech. We had a whole lot of new people join us yesterday. We're still live today. Come join us. We'll also have a Black Friday stream on Friday in case you want to join us for that. But while this has a 4080 Super, let's go ahead and talk about the 5090D, which is the China exclusive variant of the RTX 5090. This is due to export restrictions that the US has placed on their computing companies to make sure that China is not getting our best technology, but rather is getting a cut down version of that. And so the 4090D has been the cut down version of the 4090 delivered over to China. This is happening not just for the gaming cards, but then also for the high-end H100 compute cards as well. But reports are coming out that the RTX 5090D is going to be slightly different. While the 4090D has fewer CUDA cores, has a lower clock speed, it's actually a slightly different GPU than the 4090. The 5090D is going to be the exact same chip. This means with the lack of hardware difference between these two cards, that the only difference is going to be based on the BIOS. And so while it could be a cut down version on the BIOS side of things, so it's technically a slower card, they actually aren't shipping a GPU that is less capable. And we actually saw people in China overcome this with the 4090D. They were able to flash, and I think it was an Asus Strix BIOS onto the 4090D, which allowed them to get a 600 watt power profile. It allowed them to overclock it, and then they got within 5 percentage points of a traditional RTX 4090. So it can make it so that it's just easier for them to get around these regulations over in China. A little sneaky in order to do that. However, with the conversation that's happening with the 5090D, we've already seen the box art for it. This gives us good indication that we will see this before the end of January, especially because the D actually stands for dragon, and the year of the dragon actually ends towards the end of January. And so it's going to be called the 5090D for right now. But then after that, it's the year of the snake. So one would presume if it's coming out in February, it'd be called the 5090S, which is, it's not going to be called that. So just a weird situation to keep our eyes on, see how it shakes and changes and moves. But in case you want to shake, change, and move your PC, you should check out today's video sponsor. What do you use your PC for? Whether you're only a gamer, a part-time gamer, and part-time worker, or all work, no play, Cololight has the perfect addition to your setup. Oh, and they're also sponsoring today's video. I bring you the Cololight Colo Play, a compact desktop PC controller designed to increase usability for all PC use cases. Fitting in the palm of your hand, this little thing is packed full of features, from macros to the command dial to native streaming integrations. This little guy can do it all. It can even function as your PC's power button, granted your motherboard supports Wake on LAN functionality. If you're a big time gamer, you're probably striving for the most optimized system and the most frames possible. The Colo Play can help you monitor your system's CPU and GPU usage, acting as a PC dashboard. Maybe you're a 5 to 9 gamer who needs workflow functionality during the day and gaming-focused macros at night. Luckily, the Colo Play has multi-layered keypad settings, allowing you to easily organize and swap between your macros you'd use during the workday, like controlling your media or creative program shortcuts, and your evening streaming macros, like launching Discord and Steam. It even has something called Super Saiyan mode, where you can have inputs mapped to a dial menu that pops up on your monitor, making in-game shortcuts or weird button combos that much easier. Most impressive of all with the Colo Play is the extensive streaming support, featuring YouTube, Twitch, and OBS plugins. This little guy basically lets you run your entire stream. You can monitor viewer count on the screen in real time, set up manual chat messages, and even start and stop your broadcast right from the device. Consisting of 4 larger primary buttons and 1 knob in the center, the Colo Play is designed to minimize misinput
outputs and maximize efficiency. Lastly, if you want to have some extra fun with your Cola Play, you can add custom wallpapers to the screen supporting both static and dynamic formats. Change the way you interact with your PC today, or make the up-and-coming streamer in your life extra happy by picking up a Cola Light Cola Play via the link in the description below. Huge thank you to Cola Light for sponsoring today's video.
We're going to be able to pair the Cola Light with a PC that has a Battlemage graphics card before the end of the year. This is something we've already talked about in multiple episodes of Hot News recently, and that is Battlemage is expected to be announced and launched in December. This is ZDNet out of Korea saying that Intel should have their GPUs released before the end of the year, which is not necessarily novel, but the novel thing about this report that came out is the indication that maybe the GPUs that are being launched aren't necessarily very good at gaming, allegedly can't even compete with what AMD has on the market right now, but rather are going to be exceptional artificial intelligence machine learning cards, especially with their high amounts of VRAM and a lot of the things that they've changed with support for codecs and driver support and all of the work that Intel's put into their language model training stuff. This could mean that they are exceptional for that. We kind of saw a similar thing when the A series came out, the A770, the A750. A lot of people noticed that they were actually exceptionally good at encoding rather than gaming, and so they had a differing use case than just buying it purely for gaming. Obviously, if the B770 doesn't beat the 7900 XTX, I don't think that's necessarily a big deal. If it only competes with something like the RX 7800, it really only matters when you boil it down to price. Is Intel gonna keep the price of the 770 the same price as the previous generation when that launched? Because if they can do that and keep it competitive with the mid-tier, I think that's totally fine, at least in how I evaluate it. But Intel's evaluating their pocketbooks and they're finding that they got a lot more cash thanks to the fact that the US is finally negotiated the terms of the CHIPS Act, which will give almost $8 billion to Intel for a lot of the fabrication facility stuff that they're doing here in the US. $3 billion of that is going to be coming from the Pentagon. However, this is $600 million less than the initial discussion that happened between the US government and Intel. And one of the reasons for that is things like they postponed building their Ohio campus by a few years. Intel changed up their plans, especially with the lack of resources that they have right now. And so the US government decided that they were going to get less money for that, but packaging projects happening in Arizona, New Mexico is getting new stuff, as well as Ohio being the home of future fabs, and big upgrades coming to their Oregon facilities as well, making it so that Intel is investing in US infrastructure. But hopefully this can help shore up a lot of the negative money that they have right now, especially when it comes to Intel's foundry services, all of the fabrication stuff. They have been seriously cash deficient, and this might help make it so that Intel is around a little longer. But we don't want their performance issues to stay around for as long as they've been, and we've got some news on that front for the Arrow Lake Core Ultra Series desktop chips. ASRock released a new PPM driver that allegedly gets you 13% better performance in gaming if you install this. Now, it's not clear because ASRock hasn't said anything and Intel hasn't said anything if this is like one of the official fixes that Intel's supposed to be coming out with this platform power management driver, but according to ASRock themselves, this can give you up to a 13% improvement in gaming, making it so that it's mitigating some of the issues that we saw with the launch where Intel said that the gaming numbers were not what they were expecting. If the PPM driver is the thing that needs to be fixed, then here's the start of it. If it's not, and there's also something else coming out down the line, hopefully there's more performance on top of this. But in case you're using an ASRock board and you, for some reason, decided to upgrade to the Core Ultra series, maybe get that PPM driver. And maybe get what Reece is going to tell you about when he brings you the deals.
Yo, welcome back to UFD Deals, bringing the hottest tech deals on the internet. It is Wednesday, my dudes. Hope you guys are having a good one, and we're ramping up for Black Friday week because, hey, there's some good deals already. Starting off today, we have the glorious Model D minus. This wired lightweight gaming mouse is going for only $17.99, making it $26.01 off. But then next up, we have this EpoMaker TH80X. This wireless 75% gasket mount hot swappable mechanical keyboard is available for only $44.99 with the coupon applied, making it $55 off. And then lastly, the very new MetaQuest 3S, specifically the 128 gig variant, is currently going for only $224 with the code QUEST75, giving you $75 of digital credit to use on Amazon.com, and grab yourself a good holiday gift. But with that, the deals are done. You can find these and more linked in the video description down below. But until next time, I'm gonna hand you off back to Brett for the rest of your hard news. Cheers.
Well, Reece, we have a new deal going on with The Witcher, and CD Projekt Red announcing that the Witcher 4 project, codenamed Polaris, is actually in full-scale production. This is coming out from CD Projekt Red's VP, saying that they're excited to announce this, and we gotta stay tuned for what's on the other side of the coin, which came with a teaser image of a coin, which looks like it's made in Unreal Engine, so that's all we got. But I'm excited for the future of the Witcher series, but it doesn't appear like a lot of people are excited for the future of laptops or Snapdragon chips, because reports are coming out of the Q3 numbers for the Snapdragon X chips versus AMD and Intel, and it's a bloodbath. It is rough. Only 720,000 units were sold of Qualcomm's AI PCs in Q3 of 2024, which seems like a lot. Almost 1 million units, but you have to remember there was people like me who were buying them for review. I think I purchased like 4 of them, so I'm a decent percentage point, but that less than 1 million accounts for 0.8% of the entire market in Q3. 99.2% was AMD and Intel. Now, this is coming after Qualcomm has said things like they're gonna try to take 50% market share and sell as much as AMD is selling right now in terms of revenue. They are a far cry from that. It doesn't necessarily look like things are picking up. They canceled their dev kit, which makes it harder for it to be developed for Windows. They haven't had good support on Linux. There is some uptick in AI PCs. 20% more AI PCs were sold in Q3, but that just means that there were more available. Strix Point came out as well as Lunar Lake. So having those new techs being the AI PCs made it so that the sales overall are higher. I'm not necessarily against Qualcomm succeeding here. I do want another competitor in the space, but the Snapdragon X Elite chips and Plus chips are just not it. CPU-wise, they're all right. Battery life, they're great. GPU-wise, they're horrible. They're bad. It's rough to use them. They are many generations old when you compare them to Intel and AMD, and so it's a rough situation there. What's also a rough situation is the state of the RTX 4090 Ti, or TI, however you want to pronounce it, because a Redditor posted this week that they found one in a computer trash can. Yes, this 4090 Ti is in the most complete state that we've ever seen it in. What you can see here is something that you haven't seen on a graphics card before, and that is a perpendicular PCB. You can see right here are the PCI Express fingers that go into the slot, and then the PCB hangs down because it has a daughter board. This is something that Nvidia was toying around with, this quad slot card to make the RTX 4090 Ti prototype. We've seen so many images happen across the internet before. This is not the first leak that we've gotten of the 4090 Ti. You can see here that there's been multiple previous images, including the heatsink showing that it was ready for that horizontal GPU, but this Redditor saying that they just pulled it out of a junk computer bin, and they provided even more pictures. You can see that the IO slots are bent, it's dusty, it's scratched, it looks like it was actually in a trash can. One of the rarest GPUs ever made is now in the hands of somebody because they found it in a trash can. Now, they have said that they've not been able to get it to run. It's currently not working, but obviously I would like to see this work. You have people who are capable of potentially repairing PCBs and making this a functional graphics card, turning it into something that we can somehow boot, maybe put an RTX 4090 BIOS on it to just at least see what it's capable of. I want to see where this potentially goes. It's an intriguing development. The 4090 Ti likely was not released because of probably power constraints, as well as this looks to be an experimental daughter board situation that maybe they didn't get fully fleshed out. Maybe Nvidia decided that $2,000 to $2,500 for a GPU that was only going to be 5 to 10% better than the 4090 just was too much for people to swallow. It's not really known why this card didn't come out, but haven't heard of previous prototype cards just being found in the trash before. Curious to where this trash can was located, my goodness. And I know where you guys are located. in the comments. I don't know your physical addresses. Let's look at what you had to say in yesterday's episode of Hot News. We got Goner Me Leggy saying, honestly, this seems like Intel learned from the Arc launch. Not having 3 months press tour with inflated expectations would have made Arc launch a lot smoother. I am going to vehemently disagree with you on this because I actually think that the launch of the Arc Alchemist GPUs was fantastic. I think what Ryan Shrout and Tom Peterson did with their press tour, that 3-month press tour, was perfect. I think they actually set expectations very well. We knew before the card launched that it was going to struggle in DX9. We knew that it was going to struggle in DX11. We knew that it was going to struggle in games. They were very forthright about that. They were very upfront with saying, hey, we actually aren't going to compete in certain arenas, but we're pricing it based on where the lowest end performance lies and then having it right there. And I think that made a whole lot of sense. I think the Alchemist launch went really well. The problem with the Arc launch was not that they didn't do the correct press tour. It was that people don't want to be the first adopters of a buggy technology. And it ended up being what Alchemist was. But they told us that during that press tour. There was no surprises with the Alchemist launch. We didn't find out that, oh, Intel's first entry is all bug ridden. No, they let us know up front. And so I disagree with this. I think that press tour was very good. I think it gave them favorable eyes where we don't feel like they were trying to lie to us. And I think that's why there's that sentiment right now of, hey, Battlemage, it should be good. They've been actively working on it. They've been forthright in communication. They've been trying to develop this. They've told us that from day one. They've built up goodwill. The biggest problem with the Alchemist launch was that it was just not available for a while. They launched it like exclusively in China, and then there were drips and drabs of stock here and there, and it was not a solid rollout worldwide. They had some supply issues as well. But then we got Ultra Vegito saying Intel Arc, Intel Battlemage, Intel Celestial, Intel Dimensional, Intel Eternity, Intel Forever, Intel Godspeed, Intel Hyperspace, Intel Infinity. I love it. Those are good names. I just have to. This came up a lot in the comments, and I don't want to be a stickler for it, but the first generation of Intel cards is not Intel Arc, it's Intel Alchemist. The next gen cards are still going to be Intel Arc. It's going to be Intel Arc B580 because the B is the denoter, and that's the Intel Arc A770. The A stood for Alchemist, B stands for Battlemage, C for Celestial. Arc is the name of the GPU brand, so it's staying Intel Arc, just the more you know. And we got Gas Racing calling me out saying, I think the price gouging doesn't happen with Nvidia. Dumbest thing Brett has ever said, November 26, 2024. I hear you. You're taking it out of context, all right? That's the biggest problem here. I was speaking specifically in regards to the 40 series supply issues. Any price gouging that's happening with the 4090 is not being done by Nvidia. I wasn't saying that Nvidia's never done price gouging. I was saying that in the context of the GPU shortage, that price gouging wasn't Nvidia. In the context of the stock supply dropping with the 40 series, that wasn't Nvidia. That quote, if you take it across Nvidia's entire history, obviously ridiculous. If you take it in the specific situations I'm talking about, I think it makes sense. It's not the dumbest thing I've ever said. I've said a lot dumber than that. And then Shane saying, awesome video. One question, why do you have a South African NAG magazine on your display shelf behind you? Oh, that thing? The NAG mag, I lived in South Africa. I love South Africa. I want to move back there. I have very fond affections for South Africa, and when we were at Computex in Taiwan, ran into a couple people from NAG. They were handing out magazines, so I got this one. It's the annual special edition 2023. They gave it to me. I felt honored. I wanted to have a bit of history here. From South Africa here on the set. I mean, we also have my Rocco Mama's mug. The NAG magazine's not the only hearkening of South Africa. We got the Rocco Mama's mug that they gave me when I went there in 2023. But then we also got more love saying, love how you've got a NAG magazine in the background there. Shout out from South Africa. How's it? Good thanks in you? Good thanks in you? Bye donkey. Goeiemorgen. Sawubona. Unjani. See you tomorrow for more hot news. Maybe there might be a baby. I don't know what's going on.